Benvenuti nella cucina di Italia. Con un nome italiano, la Italia, come possono cucinare ripieni manicotti. In other words, welcome to Tenalia's kitchen. And with a Italian name like Tenalia, who can help but cook some stuffed manicotti with cheese? And here are the basic starting points of ingredients. We're going to have a nice big pan to put them in. We're going to use a little margarine to butter it up. You can also use a spray one like Pam. And there's our manicotti noodles. We're going to use some pasta sauce, tomato sauce, and a little extra tomato sauce because sometimes it gets a little dry. You want to make sure there's enough in there. And we're going to use ricotta cheese, and then a white cheese like mozzarella or parmesan, and we use some orange cheese for color and a little different flavor. And of course, we will be making some garlic buns to go with it. And the apples are just there for show. And so now let's get on with the recipe. First of all, we're going to preheat the oven. Oh, let's say 350. Go. And now we'll show you how to stuff the manicotti. Now, I have half of the white cheese and half of the orange cheese in here. And then I'm going to take half of this container of ricotta and put it and mix it in there with these other cheeses to make it like a thick granular putty. So I'm going to take some out. And you just put it in there. Take some out. You can never have too much cheese, they say. A little more. Now that looks good. Now I'm going to mix them all together to make more of like a putty that I can stuff into the manicotti noodles. Now as you can see, the pan has been greased. And I've mixed a batch of the cheese. Some of the white cheese, some of the orange cheese, and half the manicotti. Why half? Because this much cheese in this size of a bowl will fill roughly half of the shells. And then once they're done, I can see how much more cheese I have to put into the bowl and make up for the remaining shells, which are usually about half of them. Sometimes it's one more, sometimes it's one less. So let's get started on stuffing the shells. The one thing that makes it easier to stuff shells is to get your hands a little moistened with some water. Then the cheese doesn't stick as much. So you take a shell, as such, and then you take some cheese and just start stuffing it in the shell. This is the tricky part. Just push it in there. And I usually put my hand over the bottom of the shell so that it doesn't fall out the bottom. So then we just stuff in some more. And just keep stuffing it in there. You say, well, shouldn't those noodles be boiled beforehand? Well, I used to do that. But as it turned out, when you boil them, they got so soft that when you tried to stuff them, they would burst open, and then you still had to bake them some, and they didn't turn out very good. So I now have the idea that I will just stuff them now, and they will moisturize in the oven from the tomato sauce, and we'll show you how that's done in a little bit. And we'll check the other side. They're almost filled out. You just tuck a little more in to firm it up. See? This side and this side. And then we put it in the pan to bake the first one. Now we repeat for each of these, and it'll take a little while, so we'll pause for a little break while that goes on. Now, after stuffing the first row of noodles of pasta in the container, we have one more row to do. So how much cheese was left? Well, this much cheese. So we're going to add the remaining ricotta cheese, and we're going to add some of this orange cheese to make another batch, but not quite as big as the first one. So then we'll get started, and we'll stuff the remaining pastas into this baking pan. And now for the next step, we have all the manicottis stuffed. Stuff them tightly with cheese. And now we have to pour on the liquid, which is basically a big can of pasta sauce. Now, instead of boiling the noodles, what happens is the noodles absorb moisture from the pasta sauce. And since it's a little shy, we'll add some regular tomato sauce to it. Now those noodles in there will absorb the moisture. So, to make it just a little more moist, you can rinse a little of the pasta sauce out with a little bit of water and use it to fill in the blanks around the corners and the edges. And then it gets in there so the moisture can soak in to the noodles. And then finally, I cover it with some foil. And what that does is it seals in the moisture in the oven, and so as it's baking, it steams the noodles inside, getting them nice and tender and yummy. And now, with the oven nicely preheated to 350, we will now put the manicotti in the oven for at least an hour. So what we'll do is we'll check it in an hour. If you like your noodles a little al dente, where they're a little chewy and not quite mushy, then you do it in an hour or just a little more. And if you like them a little more mushy, you check it in an hour, maybe add a little more water, and then go for another half an hour and let the water soak in to soften them up even more. And now for the garlic buns. I sliced each bun in half, and then I covered it with a little bit of butter or margarine, and then you take some garlic powder and you can just shake it on some of them. Thick or heavy depending on what your tastes are. Some people prefer fresh garlic, it's up to you, but that's how I do it. And now we are at the 1 hour mark. We will take a little peek at how it looks. Looks pretty well done. Poke the noodles. Ooh, they're still a little al dente. So I'm going to give it probably about another 20 more minutes at least. Another 20 minutes. It's good and hot. And I can sure smell the smell of pasta and tomato sauce and garlic. And here's the table. The table's been set fit for a king and queen. And of course I put hot pads on the table for the manicotti dish when it comes out, and a little bit of Parmesan cheese as you prefer your flavor. And so this is what it will be. This is just how I make it. It's not an original recipe. It's been around for a long time. So that's all for now. Be seeing ya.